Hi everyone, this is Tim Brown. Welcome back to Tim B's Tech Talk. Today I want to feature the Magic Trackpad with the iPad Pro 12.9 inch. I actually have the 2018 version. And one thing that's really nice about it is actually it feels like an iPad. It's just that you're swiping and using gestures and tapping on the trackpad rather than the screen itself. So they're really a perfect marriage. Let me just show you a few of the gestures and how they work. So when you swipe up with 3 or 4 fingers, you get mission control. Pretty simple. One thing I do want to recommend when you're using that feature though is to do it very slowly. If you go too fast like you do on the desktop, you'll lose all of your apps. You have to do it very slowly and then wait for them to appear. Another thing that's really nice too is when you have an application up, you can actually swipe between applications using 4 fingers, like so. Now, of course, you can do this on the iPad itself. It's just a little awkward, right? So you can take 4 fingers and likewise swipe back and forth on the applications like that, but it's just so much better to do it on the trackpad. When you use your finger to move the cursor around, you'll see that there's a little dot. So it always lets you know where it is on the page. You can use 2 fingers to scroll up and down. So in this case, I'm inside the music app. I can do this on any other app. I can go in the browser and do the same thing. So I'm swiping with I'm scrolling with 2 fingers downward and then scrolling with 2 fingers upward to reverse the direction. Now, depending on what is natural for you, you can actually change this in the settings. So let me go back to mission control with a 4-finger swipe upwards, go to settings, and you can see under trackpad, you have a variety of settings. One thing that you can control is the track speed. So for example, right now I have it just above the halfway point. You can press and hold with 1 finger and then use the other finger, in this case I'm using the 4-finger, to go back and forth. So if I was to slow up the tracking speed, you can see now that the cursor is moving slower than it was before. If I go ahead and move it back up to a higher speed, now all of a sudden the cursor moves faster. And that basically would apply to anything you're doing with the trackpad while you're working with apps or what have you. You can also decide to choose natural scrolling or to leave it unselected. For me, natural scrolling is not natural. It feels unnatural to me, so I leave it unselected. But when you select it, if I go back to, say, the browser, instead of scrolling downwards to go downwards, I scroll upwards to go downwards, and then scroll downwards to go upwards. So it depends on what is natural to you. Let's go back to settings for a moment. And you see there's another option, tap to click. This is actually a feature I use with the trackpad for my computer because it's just easier. It's better than pressing down on it to engender an action. Here you could just simply tap. So for example, let me find something where there's a menu. Okay, we're inside Keynote. So here I can just tap and go to all the different menu options. I don't have to press hard on it, I just simply tap. Keynote's really nice though because when you're in play, you can press and hold on the trackpad to bring up the laser pointer or to make any kind of annotations that you want to make on screen. When you want to advance slides, you just simply tap on screen like so. And if you want to exit out of a Keynote presentation, just pinch in with 2 fingers like so. Swipe up again with 4 or 3 fingers to go into mission control, and then you can switch to other applications. You can also use the trackpad to bring in, say, flyover mode or to bring apps in using the split screen. Like for example, I can just swipe down to the bottom to bring up the dock, and by pressing and holding on an application, say like the Notes app, and using my 4-finger to bring it up, you'll see it now hovers over the other application. Another option is that you can drag it over and use it in split screen mode. So yeah, the trackpad is really handy. The gestures, the pinching gestures, the swiping, the scrolling feels quite natural when using it with the iPad. It almost feels like you're using a Mac. The one thing I like about it is that it takes the place of having to use your fingers on the iPad screen itself, which sometimes actually it's a nice alternative, because if you have grimy fingers like mine or greasy fingers, my iPad gets messy very easily, so it's nice to be able to switch back and forth. Anyway, that's my first impression of the trackpad with the iPad Pro. I highly recommend it. I hope this episode was helpful. My name is Tim B. Check me out next time.